So, after successfully exploring the dungeon and finally running across those missing kids, it's now time we can move on to the next available part of the game, though first and foremost, we did burn through quite a bit of our inventory killing all those living dead. And the good news is that, well, all those baubles the living dead did drop will catch us quite a pretty penny here in the store. Yeah, the chains will run us about $5,500 a piece, and the rings are worth about $5,000 a piece, so we've actually managed to make a little bit of a profit. Though after we replenish all of our missing goods, we will go a little bit under $50,000, but still pretty good all around. Now, I didn't mention it before, but there is a hard limit on the amount of things you can carry, and this will become even more important to manage our goods, considering that we will be having to give Angela at least one of our 5 cases of oil, I'd say once every 45 minutes to hour. So yeah, we have a little bit of a invisible timer now. Though I do want to make one other pit stop here in the mansion itself. You might recall that there were some areas over to the east that I did not explore, and well, there's a couple good reasons for that. I think first and foremost is one that might have been obvious whenever I was doing the first video. And that's that, you know, the enemies in this first area are kind of a massive pain to deal with. The bats and the rats being incredibly hard, or very small, fast-moving targets, they can be quite a bother to deal with. Especially, you might remember how I did suffer quite a bit of damage from the rat here in the kitchen. And the area we didn't visit before, well, it is a fairly long, dark hallway with another bat just screeching about. And I still have not gotten down the aiming to kill the bat. It's just good that for most instances we are able to avoid them. But in this unexplored area, we do have a few doors that we can explore. First and foremost, this metal door here, signifying an exterior exit of sorts. Well, it's just pretty much another means that we can get back to town. Not much use there. And also we have a bathroom. Spoiler alert, there is nothing of interest in there except a rat to nip at our heels. No, the real reason to ever come to this area of the mansion is behind this door right here. Because while it's not ever really directly signified, this area of the mansion is more or less a storage area. And that means that there are some goodies over here that we do want to get over time. So let's go ahead and start poking away at the doors in order here. First door is locked, but we will be finding a key for that at some other point. Behind door number 2, we find a very plentiful item that the Spanish refer to as nada, in that there is fuck all in the room, so there's no reason to ever go in here, as far as I know. But behind door number 3 is where we finally hit pay dirt for an item of interest. You can already kind of see it there in the darkness, just gotta find a lamp first to make things a little bit clearer. In the corner of the room here, we find a very nice, huge stack of logs. And these aren't just any logs, these are bundles of firewood. Now, we are going to go ahead and take the firewood, though I will say that for the most part, the firewood doesn't have much in the way of uses in the game. And what makes it even worse is that you're only limited to being able to carry around one bundle of firewood at a time. So normally I'd say don't even worry about picking it up, it's just we are going to see one of their uses in this video. Also, find another exterior area of the mansion here where we find what appears to be a kiln, though if we give it a quick check, we will see that the game describes it as an incinerator. And next to the incinerator, we find just what appears to be a pile of dirt. But upon closer inspection, we find that it's not just any dirt, instead it is rich clay. Now, it may not seem like these have any immediate usages, and you'd be right. It's just, we will see that they have a very necessary purpose for later on in the game. For now, though, we have explored what I wanted to in the mansion, so without further ado, it's time to head back into that brand new area. The Spirit's Castle. Yeah, immediately the music of the Spirit's Castle denotes something of foreboding and terror, and the stark environment kind of lends to that. And also, just by the sheer number of doors we are greeted with, you can already kind of guess that the Spirit's Castle is pretty large and pretty cumbersome to get through on your first go around. Especially considering, I can't really impress upon it enough, we are having to backtrack every so often to go give Angela some of that oil. So just to make this as streamlined as possible, I'm going to try not to bumble around as much as probably a new person would on their exploration of the castle here. Instead, pretty much the first thing you want to try to do is maybe cover the northern perimeter of the castle. Not to say that you couldn't explore some of the other side corridors first, it's just you'd find pretty quickly that they all end up being kind of dead ends or locked doors you can't get through just yet. And also, don't let the bats fool you. There are going to be quite a few new enemies waiting in the wings of the Spirit's Castle. In fact, we have almost reached the very northern end of the perimeter for the castle right now. And we are going to be greeted by a brand new enemy in this very next room. Though this is less of an enemy and more of a puzzle because, well, the bullets from our shotgun do absolutely no damage to this animated suit of armor here. And while it is pretty slow, bear in mind that it does a tremendous amount of damage. Not to mention, there is another door in here, though it is locked. So we've reached something of a dead end, though do keep in mind that skylight there. For now, though, we've reached a dead end this direction. I think we can safely start to backtrack now and maybe start exploring some of those other side doors that we passed, trying to get the full extent of the perimeter. And we finally run into an actual new enemy here. Now, I don't know a specific name for this particular enemy. There's not really a beastery in the game anywhere. The fact I'm going off of calls these guys night gaunts, and I assume that's because of their appearance, and also, well, they do favor the nighttime areas. Yeah, if you start to light lamps in the room, they will try to actively get rid of them because I think the light bothers them. And also, much like the ghouls that we fought previously, if we check the bodies of the gaunts here, occasionally we might find something of interest. In this case, we find a brand new sellable item. Now, we didn't get too much of a chance to see exactly how the gaunts will fight us, but we will be running into them quite a bit more as we make our way through the castle. They are pretty much the replacement for the ghouls in this area. And also, as we have some firewood, and we have a fireplace, and we kind of need to keep the light going, it kind of makes sense, so we might as well get some usage out of the firewood here. Nice, cozy looking light source, and it does give the room a different feel. Not to say it's cozy or comforting in any way, but it's definitely a different color. And in this next room here, we find, well, pretty much absolutely nothing again. I will say that I don't know if it's meant to just waste your time or at least give some air of realism, but not every room in the castle or every room in the game has something of interest. I think we saw some of those rooms in the mansion, but yeah, I will try my best to not spend too much time in them in the castle here. But behind our next available door here, we not only get a musical change, but we even get an environmental change, which seems a little bit sudden. But I think it's because the exterior of the castle is meant more for defense, and that this interior area is meant more for general living and is supposed to be more hospitable to the eyes. Are definitely even more rooms to start to explore, though. So let's go ahead and start getting that out of the way. So the Night Gaunts themselves, I would say, are a little bit less dangerous than the ghouls. Their means of attack is fairly fast and slightly damaging. It's just, well, if you can manage to dodge out of the way, they end up just ricocheting all around the room and pinballing about, giving you pretty ample time to hit them. Also, their attacks seem to be less quick than the ghouls, and also there's just the fact that they don't poison you, so they can be a bit surprising to deal with initially, but they feel a lot less dangerous, though as far as I can tell, if you manage to leave a room completely dark, they will immediately respawn once you leave and enter a room, so they do kind of necessitate you pretty much keeping a room as lit as possible. Which is fine for, exploration in general. It's just, well, I don't think I've mentioned it before, but sometimes, or I think most times whenever you have to light one of the wall sconces here, it not only uses a charge of your matches, but it also uses a charge up of your oil. So, try not to light everything as you see it, because it might be a kind of a waste. But here we run across our first key item in the Spirit's Castle. It is another medallion. And as you can probably guess from the medallions we previously used, this one is going to be part of a locking mechanism, though there will be quite a bit of time before we get much use out of it. Still, it's good to get these things out of the way as quickly as we possibly can. Just try to alleviate any unnecessary backtracking. And another thing that makes the Night Gaunts a little bit easier to deal with, even in the darkness, is that the click-clacking of their talons on the floor make them pretty easy to track and to especially know that they're in the room in the first place. The ghouls, they would sometimes let out a noise, but for the most part, their footsteps were pretty quiet. Also, while we are able to gather another silver necklace from this gaunt here, I will say that otherwise this room, even though it does have a piece of furniture, as far as I can tell, there is nothing at all that's on this table. Tried pulling, pushing, checking. It just ends up seeming like a pointless bit of furniture in another dead-end room that seems entirely set up just to waste your time and resources while you try to explore the spirit castle here. Still though, we are making fairly good time, and we have found our way up to the second floor of the castle. And I do want to try to keep things as illuminated as possible. No reason to have videos entirely in the dark, especially considering how massively dark the castle can get. I mean, even compared to the dungeon, the castle I find to be quite a bit harder to find the lanterns on the wall here to light up. And we do have a fine selection of 3 doors, though I will try to just keep going in order. It seems the most logical approach to take. We are greeted by another suit of armor. Thankfully, this one is not as animated as the one on the first floor, though I really wouldn't put it past the game to set up such a nefarious trap as putting a pretty dangerous enemy right next to a door. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves back on what I guess to be the exterior of the castle. And you might recall that fireplace I lit up previously. Well, there was another good reason that I did light up that fire. You might notice on the chimney over here there is a little bit of a nest, and normally there would be 2 enemies perched up in that nest. It's just, well, by making sure to light that fire, we do drive off those enemies. Now, if you're wondering what they are, trust me, we will be seeing them again in the future. This was just to make my journey a little bit easier. This was a very, very meaningful journey to take because if we take a quick look at the map, we'll see this upper little courtyard area here is pretty much parallel with that room where that animated suit of armor was. And we see there seems to be a little bit of a broken structure here. One of the pillars isn't connected to the roof portion. So that gives me a little bit of an idea where we can use one of our lesser used verbs, such as, well, the push verb. Now, you might be able to guess what that does. It's just, as you can probably assume, a bit of an obtuse puzzle. If you end up checking the pillar at all, it'll just keep on saying nothing, or as if there's no reason to even be of interest to the pillars or the structure itself. And you might have easily overlooked the fact that there was even a skylight in that room, or you might have actually just headed up to the second floor to begin with and just tried to go, in the doors in order. Needless to say, it would have caused a whole lot of wasted time, and, well, you could have easily, completely overlooked the fact that you have additional actions you can take and probably not even push that pillar. It's like pretty obtuse puzzles. And our next available door here leads us up to a staircase to another upper floor. It's just, well, for right now, we don't want to push ourselves too much further upwards. Instead, we want to try to finish exploring what we can of the second floor and inevitably head back to that room where the animated suit of armor was. And believe it or not, we will be heading back to that suit of armor much sooner than expected because, while it may seem like we do have a little bit more to explore in this area of the castle, well, spoiler alert, this door off to the right has nothing of interest in it. It's just another enemy closet. We can go in there and get a silver necklace, but I'd rather not waste the time. Instead, our main point of interest is this door here with an emblem on it, because, yeah, this door is locked, and we will need to find the key to progress further. It's just coincidentally, we might be able to find that key if we go back to that room with the animated suit of armor and see if we can't progress further in that direction. Yeah, we completely smashed that armor to bits with our slight bit of vandalism. And you do have to be a little bit precise whenever you do check the body. Because even though it may say initially there's nothing on it, if we get a little bit closer and do another check, we will find amongst these scattered remains here a brand new key. And coincidentally enough, this key is for the door in the exact same room. Which allows us to continue our exploration into the further interior of the castle. Now, for the most part, at this point of the game, we still haven't gotten much in the way of progression of the story. We've at least been able to find the kids, and at least get some inkling that they are being used for maybe an evil, nefarious ritual. It's just there's still a lot of mystery and not very much progression of the story, which can be kind of a mixed bag. Especially now that we've been given, like, all these additional timers and things. It could be, well, kind of infuriating to deal with. Especially when you're given rooms such as this that seem to have no real purpose. It looks like there's a little bit of a lower courtyard area down there. It's just, we have no real way to get down there. It's just another room we're going to have to mentally keep track of among so many others. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't an extremely, extremely important reason to head over to this area of the castle, though. In fact, this mostly innocuous-looking hallway is not only very important, but also a massive, massive roadblock to playing the game. I mean, obviously not very many people played this game in the first place, but I'm assuming the ones that even got to this part probably felt very inclined to quit because, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call this the evil trap hallway. Now, there's a trap behind every one of these doors. It's just, for the most part, they're not that deadly, except for this very first door here. Because hidden in the darkness are two comedically oversized swinging pendulum balls that you might have seen, I don't know, being used in a Looney Tunes cartoon. And I'm not just, turning on these lights for the hell of it or just to give me some, slight additional visibility. Because, well, it'd probably be best if you just avoid the balls entirely because you kind of can tell I just took one hit from almost full health. And I'm almost dead. As far as I can tell, taking just 2 slight scrapes from these swinging balls will kill you. And they are moving very fast, and they are moving in a very odd pattern, and, well, Akira is not the most spry man in the world. So moving and trying to evade these is pretty much a massive, massive torturous experience. And it may seem like the goal is pretty easy to get to. It's just this key here in the far corner. It's just that if you do not light every lantern in this room, Akira will always say that he cannot see this key. So before you can even make your way over to the key, you have to make sure and hit almost every corner of the room to try to light these lanterns. And what makes it even more infuriating is that, yeah, it's incredibly easy just to go down the center of the room. I ended up, I think, spending about 12-15 minutes trying to get through that room in a reasonable manner. Ugh. But yeah, even when you die, you're going to have to go through about 3 minutes solid at PS1 loading screen, so it's a little bit of a kick in the nutsack. Especially when you compare it to the next trap room here, where we get a lovely little riddle to help us in our puzzle, though a bit of a odd translation here between what's on the wall and the text we get for checking it. So it appears that death is our destiny, which I can kind of understand considering that previous room murdered me a lot. It's just that the end puzzle here is, well, there's some tiles on the ground with some letters, and yeah, all we have to do is spell out death. Maybe this was the same puzzle in Japanese, and it was probably a little bit harder, you know, if you didn't know English characters in Japanese. I don't know. Just seems like a massive difference in difficulty. And for our troubles, we do get another medallion, though, as I mentioned with the previous one, we're not going to be getting much use out of this for quite some time. Also, to get out of the puzzle again, we just have to walk back over the letters for death. So yeah, definitely a steep decline in difficulty. And speaking of steep declines in difficulty, the final door here, we are not even able to access yet. Seems this one has a very peculiar looking indention. We are going to have to try to find some key for later on. Yeah, we're not going to be able to use the medallions we've been finding so far for this one. That almost seems a bit masked shape. Still though, for all of our troubles, we did find a brand new key, and we already know where that key goes, so let's go ahead and travel back to that door and see what our reward is for facing that horrible pendulum room. Seems pretty safe so far. That safety is quickly dispelled. Now, you may not be able to see it, but I'm totally being a Billy Badass here and probably pulling off some John Wick style, shootouts with these gaunts here. It's just that, as you can imagine, trying to fight two gaunts in even a relatively normal size room can be a little bit difficult because, well, they're all, ricocheting about the room. It's just, another one of those situations where it's usually best to just start firing blindly and hope you do connect when you do manage to fire. It's a bit frustrating though, because as far as I can tell, anytime I have fought these two particular gaunts, neither one of them does drop a necklace. Which, can be a little bit frustrating considering you have to go through about a box and a half of shells to even take them down. And you probably had to go through even more matches if you've been trying to light the lamps around the room to keep them occupied. still no real reward for even heading down this way. Yeah, we don't get a reward until we finally reach this last room here, where all these suits of armor might make you think that there could be a little bit of a trap here. It's just, believe it or not, after all that mess we've had to go through, we can simply just pick up this key here. And we can pretty much get out of the room scot-free. Guess it's the game designer's trying to throw us a little bit of a bone after that horrible trap room. It's just, well, we've managed to make quite a bit of progress at this point. It's just not really clear on where we can go next. We do have a brand new key. It's just a bit worrisome that after all that fighting we've done, we've not only gone through quite a bit of our healing items, we've also gone through quite a bit of our matches, and we're almost out of oil, and whew, we have run through quite a bit of bullets. So for right now, I think the best course of action is for us to head back to town to try to resupply, maybe get our bearings again, and maybe have a little stop off to refill with Angela back in the dungeon. Just thankfully, I do manage to edit all that out. You really don't want to watch me backtrack through empty rooms. But the necklaces do appear to sell for quite a bit, almost 7,000 apiece. And that gives us plenty of money to refill on everything. But for right now, hopefully you will let me take a little bit of a breath here, and hopefully you'll join me next time as we hopefully finish up with the Spirit Castle. See you then.